All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And good morning, everyone. We are here. We are feeling good. Oh, yes. Albert, did you tweet that we're on the air? I don't think you did. I'm guessing you... I'm betting against on that one. It means I've got to do it. I can't believe I've got to tweet. You know, I have to do everything on this damn show. Give me
it's
shelter.
Mark Thompson show.
I mean, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for. I just am saying that I have to do it.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Albert, do you have the pictures that
I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week.
I would like to see them. I was supposed to see them, and I'd like to know where they are.
I do like the red shirt. That's nice.
Oh, yeah, wearing the red shirt. I meant to put the jacket on, but I didn't, so... I love this part. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, how are you, Kim? You were
barely made it.
People were really concerned about your condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it did linger for a while.
Kim, how are you?
You know,
not really getting that much better, so I don't know.
It's not. Wow, I don't know. This is a weird one. It's gone on for a long time. I will tell you that
John Smith seems to think otherwise, Kim. He says you sound better. So
that's good.
Her sound has not been profoundly affected by it. But the way she feels, apparently, has varied day to day, as you know. Was it when was she not here? Yesterday or the day before?
Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, she was KO'd by it.
Takes a lot for me to miss a Mark Thompson show. Really does.
Yeah, and me as well. You know, I worked through COVID. Had COVID for 10 days. Yeah. Missed one day because my voice was bad. That's why
there's never been anything like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. But
it's the Jordan flu game, and then it was the Mark Thompson COVID shows. Those are the two moments of my life that really changed how hard I should probably hustle.
With the flu, you're talking about Michael Jordan. Tell everybody what you're talking about, Albert.
Yes, it was the NBA Finals. I believe it was against the Jazz, and he was playing under the weather, and he won the game for the Bulls. Nobody thought he was going to play. He toughed it out.
And I win the game every day here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Yes, I am absolutely. That's right.
Kind of a big deal.
All right, now. Albert, I would like to, before I get to the drops that are facing off against each other, I will get to the commissioner's office and we will set Mark's Madness and tell everybody who won last night. The voting was, as you're aware, going up until midnight last night. Now, I do want to mention we'll be together for the first hour, and we did consider another guest for this hour, and we decided that we're just going to go with us, the magic of us, for the first hour. Then David Katz comes along, and David Katz is the legal ninja, and he will talk about all things related to the law as it affects many of the, contemporary issues in America. And when I say that, I guess it's a euphemism for the gun issue. One of the ways that the cigarette corporations were brought to their knees was as a result of litigation. They were sued for the damage that those cigarettes did medically, right? Physically, the harm that cigarettes had done. Can you do the same with guns? Can you sue the gun manufacturers? The answer is yes. But the answer is a little more complicated than just the yes. So we'll have that conversation with David Katz in the 11 o'clock hour. I'm going to get to the San Francisco DA, the new numbers on that, maybe even touch on the Alameda DA. The numbers there are just the opposite. We've got a pretty strong law and disorder segment. And, of course, then Belinda Waymouth in the next hour, she talks about things related to the planet. And one of the things she's going to touch on, and she likes good news. I focus on bad news. But she focuses on good news and the way in which the groundwater supplies are being recharged in California is something she's going to touch on today. And she's going to touch on a pretty cool electric vehicle. There's a new e-vehicle entering the world of...
What?
Yeah, of e-vehicle production. And it's not out of Elon Musk, so we'll get to that as well. So there's a lot going on, but I wanted to...
The Mark Thompson Show.
I wanted to get now to the commissioner, because Commissioner, I wonder if you could tell us, before I put the word out as to what's facing off against what today in Mark's Madness, what happened last night, please?
I think with what my knowledge of what happened last night, I think this merits a major announcement. So...
Oh, wow. Was there...
Major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
Was there a big upset? Was there a big upset?
There wasn't even just one big upset, Mark. There were two big upsets last night.
Oh, my God, Albert. I think this could be the end of me.
Yes, I have to review the celebrity brackets, and we'll probably get to that in the next hour. But,
remind everybody, so yesterday, what was facing off against it? What?
So Wild Idea played against Oprah what?
Oh yeah.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Against Oprah's what?
What?
I had what going deep. What happened?
I did too, and I think it was seeded. It was the number 4 seed. It actually lost to Wild Idea.
Wow. I don't believe it. Wild Idea beat what? Oh my!
What?
Yeah,
exactly.
what?
It's a proper reaction to the loss.
Oh my! I don't believe it.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It worked.
Well,
Mark. It worked. Whatever.
Bravo,
it did,
Wild Idea. Nice job, man. I did not have that. I had what beating you, Wild Idea. So I lost that one. What about the other one? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oprah, I'd just express outrage.
You got...
Who is having that conversation?
Can you?
None of us are getting cars after that. So
yeah. So tell me about the other one, please.
So yesterday we also had My Bad, I'm Sorry, one of our favorite Whoopi drops.
My Bad. Now, before you tell me who won that, I'm going to reveal something. I have My Bad, I'm Sorry.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Right. I have that drop winning the tournament. So if this lost, there is no way I can win. What was it playing up against it? What My Bad, I'm Sorry was up against what? I forget.
Seriously, WTF.
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one.
Seriously, what the
Who won? Or
Mark,
what won?
your
Oh, no, dude.
Your bracket is busted.
What?
I'm very sorry.
What?
Oh, my God.
Seriously, WTF won.
Seriously?
Seriously, what the
Seriously won over My Bad?
My bad. I'm sorry.
The 21 seed beat the 5 seed. My Bad, I'm Sorry, which was probably one of my best timed drops. I could get you to break character with that drop pretty well.
That is, yeah.
It's out.
Well, wait a minute.
What?
I want to know the actual percentages here. Okay, I mean,
I just want to find 11,780.
Yeah, I just want to know the exact percentages, Albert, because this is quite extraordinary what you're telling me.
Well, it had 64% of the vote, so it wasn't. It was
close.
It was close,
Not too
but
close?
it wasn't.
Yeah,
It wasn't
all
that
right.
close, but it was
All right.
close.
Which is one more than we have.
All right.
I only need 11,000.
I don't know what to say except I'm devastated by this. And hey,
It's funny because I'm actually looking at your bracket. It's a lot of green towards the top, and then some red towards the bottom, and then some green again, and it's more red towards the bottom. So
I am redding now. Red is bad, and I'm now all red. I really had My Bad, I'm Sorry going all the way. I really thought that was the darling of the audience.
My bad. I'm sorry.
And the audience voted seriously, what the F?
Seriously, what the
All right, so that's what happened with the, you vote in the community section of our YouTube channel until midnight. You just go to our YouTube channel, you can click right on the icon, and then it'll say home, videos, shorts, live, and then it'll say community. And you click on community and you can vote there for, the drop that you feel should move on. This is Mark's Madness, so we spend a little time on this thing that is a lot of fun. Sayo is still strong. Is Sayo still at the top?
19-1.
Wow.
95% correct prediction. So
returning champion. She won 2 years ago, and now she is dominating the field. Carol Salinger is number 2.
Yeah, overtaking CBN Roro was actually number 2 yesterday. So, yeah.
Yeah. Then Daniel Martin, as you can see, if you're on YouTube, we have them posted up there for you. So this is pretty incredible. And then
not a lot
Russ
of celebrities
Hills and
here.
Sabora, no, the celebrities are not representing. Ron Cook says, we need a recount. I smell Dominion and George Soros. Let's figure out what's going on now.
I can't believe it. Mark's Madness.
Yeah, there are 2 more that are going to find out their fates in the next 24 hours. It's either, this is strong. It's either,
why are you yelling?
Why are you yelling? Or,
y'all can all go to hell and I'm going back to Texas.
Again, you vote for either,
why are you yelling?
Or,
y'all can all go to hell and I'm going back to Texas.
It's yelling or Texas. You vote, as I say, right now on YouTube or in the community section of our YouTube channel. Wow, this is going to be, I clearly am no kind of barometer for anything. I don't know, I really don't know.
This will be interesting because Why Are You Yelling is an institution in our show, but going back to Texas is such a great drop, So yeah. I'm curious to see what's going to happen tonight.
Going back to Texas inspired a song. Do you remember that songwriter who wrote a song? He said, I wrote this song based on that drop. And it was great, the song. We have it somewhere. Maybe I'll try to rally it for tomorrow.
We'd probably get copyrighted though for playing.
Yeah, I'm worried about it. Like without the right paperwork, it could be.
We might have to just do it a cappella ourselves, or just read over the lyrics to get the song of the show.
It is true. Let me just grab my Kleenex here. You'll excuse me. I have this, I don't know if it's just allergies or a cold or it's just wet. There was a huge mudslide right next to my house last night. So Courtney comes in and she says, oh my God. We'd actually, I want to go out and see it. I said, I don't want to go out and see it. It's not close to us and I just don't, it's pouring rain. And of course I do go out. She's making fun of me for not wanting to go out, so I go out. And it's bad. They've closed the whole road and everything. But then she comes back in like an hour and a half later, and I'm just trying to wind down. And she says, I don't know, are we going to be okay? I just heard a big truck outside. I said, there are going to be a lot of big trucks. There's a huge mudslide. They've got to take all that land, that earthen hillside. They got to take it away.
Right.
Yeah, we're in no danger. But between that and my neck, I didn't sleep at all. And then I've got this drip thing. I'm just coming. I'm.
You're a mess. You're a hot mess.
I am a mess. I'm a mess. I just didn't
what
want
the
you
hell
to
is
have.
going on in the United States of America?
I didn't want Kim to have a clean claim on working through tough health situations. So anyway,
we'll share.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I wanted to get into some statistics which are interesting, and they're related to the new DA in San Francisco, who was on our show, you'll recall. Speaking of recall, I mean, it was during the recall.
Yeah.
She was on before the recall, then she was on after the recall.
That's Brooke Jenkins, right?
Yeah, Brooke Jenkins. And the Brooke Jenkins statistics are crime statistics under her reign. She's only been in since July. They're pretty impressive if you're looking at the way that criminal cases are handled from the DA's office. I feel as though it is something that we should put into Law and Disorder. I'm looking around for the... Yeah, I think we can do it.
In the criminal justice system, the people...
Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care...
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law, you're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
It's just that the data out of the DA's office suggests that things are happening quickly in terms of criminal prosecution efforts and where people are ending up who are in the San Francisco courts. I mention this because you'll remember Chesa Boudin was this progressive figure, and is a progressive figure, but when he was DA, very controversial progressive figure. The idea was that San Francisco was beset by smash and grabs, drug issues, even violent crimes, and not enough was being done. When it comes to drug crimes, charging and conviction rates have climbed sharply. While the changes between two district attorneys are in part driven by their policies, they're also impossible to disentangle from the COVID-19 pandemic's impact, they're saying. This is a new piece in the Chronicle that kind of tracks all of the statistics. Crime patterns shifted. Social distancing measures forced a dramatic reduction in the jail population. And the Superior Court mostly stopped holding criminal trials. That caused a backlog, hundreds of names long. Crime in the city has mostly reverted to pre-pandemic trends, but the low jail population and massive backlog, nearly 1,000 cases that went past their original trial deadlines, they've now persisted. So they're still backlogged, in other words. After hitting lows near 25% in late 2021 and early 2022, their share of criminal cases ending in a jail or prison sentence began climbing following Jenkins' appointment, hitting nearly 50% in March, more than any month since April 2020. Charging and conviction rates have gone up for felony cases overall, while diversion rates, and this is key because you remember one of the controversial aspects of Chesa Boudin's reign was this diversion program. Right? People weren't going to prison. They were getting this diversion program enrollment. Diversion rates, the share of cases resolved through programs serving as alternatives to jail or prison time, those cases are down. That's less diversion, more prison, okay? Despite these shifts, the city's jail population hasn't ballooned under Jenkins. It hovers around 800 people, which is about what it was with Boudin. That's below its pre-pandemic average of nearly 1,300. Jenkins is saying under her leadership, attorneys have become more thoughtful about who they let participate in diversion programs. Quote, if you're a first-time nonviolent offender, sure, diversion might be appropriate for you. If this is your fifth or sixth time around the bend, then we need to be arguing for something different, she said. I mean, that was really a cornerstone of what was talked about in the recall, right? You're not being tough enough on repeat offenders. Jenkins saying that her higher charging rates for felony cases likely stem from an increase in chargeable cases presented to her office. She said the cops have been presenting more arrests with better quality evidence since she took over. Jenkins' felony charging rates in her first 3 quarters were higher than Boudin's in every quarter but his last. The truth is that you can tell there's a new chief in town, right? So if you were progressively minded when it came to law enforcement, you felt that these diversion programs should be the reflexive place where many offenders end up, then you're not happy. But if you felt as though San Francisco was a place that was being too easy on these felonious offenders, yeah, you're happy. Your day has come. San Francisco has a robust network of diversion programs. And it has a history of using those diversion programs since the 1970s. So the jury's still out, if you'll pardon the expression, on whether diversion programs are really effective or not. The statistics can be sort of jimmied to show anything you want. But it suggested that the effects of a diversion program were strongest with people charged with drug offenses. Jenkins says she believes Boudin's office was allowing some people to take advantage of diversion by participating in that program, getting released, and heading straight back to the streets to sell harmful drugs like fentanyl. She says what's going on right now are people selling death. We have to take this more seriously. So the tug of war between those who want diversion and those who want jail, that's going on in San Francisco right now. But if you just look at the statistics, because Jenkins is saying, hey, you guys have defaulted to diversion too many times. Essentially, that's what she's saying. She's all for diversion if it makes sense, but she's not for diversion if it's with somebody who's a repeat offender or a violent offender. The QAnon Shaman, the face-painted, horn-wearing QAnon Shaman has been released.
What?
Yes, I mean, exactly.
What?
I know.
How long was his sentence?
Well, this is a very good question, and I'm going to give you a very good answer. He was sentenced in November of 2021 to more than 3 years in prison. He pleaded guilty to obstruction of an official proceeding in Congress. There he is. He faced a statutory maximum of 20 years in prison, you'll remember. Benjamin O'Cone, who's a spokesperson for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, said that he was transferred on Monday to community confinement overseeing by the Bureau's Phoenix Residential Reentry Management Program. That means that he's either in home confinement or a residential reentry center, Kim. He's no longer in prison. His projected release date from custody is May 25th, 2023. So that's May of this year, just in time to join Donald Trump on the road and be part of the January 6th celebration.
The world feels so much safer with him out of prison.
After serving only 11 months in solitary prior to his sentence. Wow, by the way, 11 months in solitary shouldn't have an only in front of it. That's a long time in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement, as you are probably aware, is spoken of often as torture. I mean, literally as torture. Anyway, this guy was in it for almost a year. That was prior to his sentence being imposed. Then 16 months of his sentence after that. So they're saying, hey, the guy served enough, and now he's out, as we say, being released into either some kind of halfway house or in some kind of home program, you know, where they monitor you with an ankle brace. 16 crew on a Danish oil tanker have been locked in the ship's safe room for 5 days. They were boarded by pirates in the most dangerous shipping lane in the world. Yeah, this is Captain Phillips stuff, right? We had Billy Ray on yesterday who wrote the movie. All 16 crew members sought refuge in a safe room aboard the Monjasa Reformer. The oil tanker was boarded by 5 pirates near Port Pont Noir in the Republic of Congo, near the Republic of Congo. Communication was lost with the tanker after it was boarded by these 5 armed pirates in the Gulf of Guinea off the coast of West Africa. All 16 crews sought refuge in a safe room aboard the ship. The Liberian-flagged oil and chemical tanker was boarded by the 5 pirates around 140 miles west of the Republic of Congo's port. Wow. That is a scary situation, right? Meanwhile, back here in Iowa, in Law and Disorder, an Iowa teen flips on a classmate and agrees to testify against him at the trial after they, and you'll remember this case, we talked about it, They beat their Spanish teacher to death over a bad grade. I know, it's ugly, but sometimes life is ugly. Jeremy Goodale and Willard Miller are both charged with murder in Iowa. Prosecutors say they murdered their high school Spanish teacher, Nohema Graber, 66 years old. Imagine that. Now, Goodale is slated to testify against Miller. He's flipping. And Russian security forces have announced they've arrested an American Wall Street Journal reporter. They've arrested him on a spying charge. This is the first time a U.S. correspondent has been detained on spying accusations since the Cold War. The newspaper, of course, is denying the allegations that he was a spy and demanding his immediate release. This is all as the frosty relations between the U.S. and Russia continue. I don't need to tell you what's happened with the Belarusians. They've now essentially set up a staging ground for nuclear weaponry to be placed there. The Russians are definitely upping the ante. In the Dominion voting lawsuit, emails after the 2020 election show that Fox's own Brain Room, it was essentially a group of people who were looking over the data on the election, concluded that the voting myths about Dominion were false. They literally met to go, we're saying this stuff on the air about Dominion and about their computers flipping votes to Biden. Let's see if this is true. And 10 days after the 2020 election, Fox News' so-called Brain Room looked into conspiracy theories that Dominion was involved in this. The fact-checking and research division of the network came back with a clear decision. The claims that Dominion was flipping votes were false. But the misinformation went on the air anyway. This is new in that continuing trial that goes on against Fox News, seeking damages for the reputational damage they did to Dominion voting
My
systems.
bad. I'm sorry.
That's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Yeah, and, on the whole issue of guns and what happened in Tennessee, I did a whole run on it yesterday, how they're making the gun laws in Tennessee even looser than they are. There are very few restrictions on gun ownership, but they're making them even looser. You can find it in yesterday's show, or you can just Google it on your own, and you can see that they're lowering the age at which you can buy a gun. You don't need it permitted. You don't need any training. It's pretty crazy.
Google it.
It's pretty awful. So that's happening in Tennessee. It's happening in Kentucky also. And as to what's happening at the federal level on guns, nothing is the answer. I mean, there's a lot of posturing, there are a lot of talking heads, but there's no real substantive change. Smash the like button.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash the like button like a boss and give us a thumbs up. Still to come, I got a kind of, I think it's major announcement territory, so we'll do it after the news with Kim. And I also have a story from the Sky note that's pretty substantial, a major change in the way things are going to be handled on board aircrafts. And then layoffs hit a major news organization. That, and then I can't get away completely from the AR-15 love affair that we seem to have in this country with this weapon. And I will talk about that as well a bit in the next half hour. Smash the like button, damn it. Smash
with your
it.
Iron rod.
And we finally are in the middle of Mark's Madness for this day after experiencing major upsets yesterday. Right now, it's either...
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
It's that or...
Why are you yelling?
Yeah, you vote for one or the other, and you'll vote in the community section of our YouTube channel. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. Bear with me, please, because my voice is not cooperating. Okay, we'll start with Tennessee, the state capital now, being flooded with parents and students demanding stricter gun laws. After the last mass shooting at Nashville's Covenant School this week, hundreds of parents are joining community groups to urge legislators to act now and stop future incidents from happening. Their goal? To protest before Tennessee's House floor session for common sense gun laws. Kentucky's governor is saying that he is grieving after 9 soldiers died when 2 Army Black Hawk helicopters crashed on a training mission. It happened near Fort Campbell, Kentucky last night. During a planned training mission, every soldier on board the choppers died. All of the soldiers were with the 101st Airborne Division. Governor Andy Beshear asking for everyone to pray for their families. U.S. insurance companies no longer need to provide preventative care service for free. Well, that makes a lot of sense, right? Texas judge deciding those Affordable Care Act mandates can't be enforced nationwide. That includes some cancer and heart screenings, STI screening, and programs to quit smoking as well.
Oh. Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Yeah, it's a Texas judge. It's interesting that we we're brought to our knees, really, by so many of these health issues that can be handled and prevented, but they need to be screened for, and they need to be handled, earlier on before they manifest themselves as so serious. I mean, it can apply to everything from cancer to diabetes, et cetera. So the notion, though, that because it's not insured, those screenings can't happen, it's just absurd. And again, we're the only country on earth, the only developed nation that has this ridiculousness.
Well, it's a lot cheaper for insurance companies to keep their patients from getting sick rather than paying once they get sick.
Thank you. It does feed the bottom line. But oddly, their view is, no. We just don't want to pay for anything. We're not going to pay for the screening. And then we're going to find ways to not pay for the actual ailment when it emerges.
That's correct. I mean, I guess it saves you money in the short run, but costs you in the long run. So I don't know how wise that is.
Yeah.
There's never been anything like this.
That's true.
There is a woman who works for San Jose Police Union and is now accused of smuggling drugs. Federal officials claim she hid packages of pills as wedding gifts, makeup, and chocolate. They say Joanne Segovia.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
She used her home and office
computers. It was
computers.
good chocolate, to be fair. Go ahead. Yes?
Used her home and office computers, allegedly, to order and distribute opioids from overseas. This all allegedly happened over 8 years. The 64-year-old is the union's top executive for the San Jose Police Department union.
Wow.
She now faces up to 20 years in prison if she's convicted.
Damn straight.
That's a sucker.
Yeah, that is brutal.
Man. Oh, Joanne. Oh.
Joanne.
Joanne. The House is approving Republicans' energy package. Speaker Kevin McCarthy said it will lower energy costs for Americans while making the nation more energy independent. But the bill is unlikely to move any further in the Senate. A Majority Leader Chuck Schumer saying it will be dead on arrival in the upper chamber. Lawmakers are introducing new railroad safety legislation. This is happening in response to last month's toxic train derailment seen here in East Palestine, Ohio. The new measure would bolster train inspection requirements. This comes after yet another train derailed last night in Minnesota.
In other words, regulation, oversight. Oh, my God. Yeah.
I mean, you think?
Yeah.
How many train derailments can we have before someone's like, someone should make some rules? Opening day is upon us. Here we go. For folks that are excited about all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Giants are playing right now in New York. They're down 1-0. And yeah.
Get used to that.
Opening the Giants do have someone on second, and it's in the second inning. So I'm definitely not paying attention,
They've got a handful of rule changes this year as well.
Yes, they do.
What are those about, Albert? Talk to me about
There's a 20-second pitch clock. There's bigger bases.
A 20-second pitch clock is kind of a big deal. You can only step off the rubber twice.
Yeah, so if the pitcher has the 20 seconds, and also if the batter delays the 20 seconds, that'll count as a strike. So it goes both ways. Pitcher takes too long, it's a ball. Batter delays it, it's a strike. So
they tried this stuff in the minor leagues before they brought it to the major leagues. And they're trying to move the game along, see? So that's why they've added some of these additional rules to the pitch clock. And as Albert says, you can only call timeout as a batter once per at-bat. So they tried all this stuff in the minor leagues before they got to the major leagues to shorten the game, to move it along. How much shorter did it make the game in the minor leagues so that they then brought it to the major league? How much shorter is the baseball game with these changes in the minor leagues that now came to the major leagues? How much shorter is the game? Is it 10 minutes shorter? Is it 15 minutes shorter?
I really don't know. I haven't looked it up, so I'm going to say 20 minutes. 20
minutes is a solid guess. And you are warm. I will say that you are warm with a 20-minute guess. I want to see what anybody guesses in the 23 minutes, says Eric. 20 seconds, says John. 37 minutes is very, 26 is very warm. 22 is not quite as warm. 30 minutes, shadow producer Calvin Wong is right. It's 30 minutes. 30 minutes, 18 minutes and 30 seconds.
I guess that's worth it. I mean,
that's a significant, right? You're going to, if the average game is how long, Albert? Would you say 3 hours?
3 hours usually. 3-hour games.
So if you can
somebody did mention in the chat, how am I going to take my hour nap? I agree with you. I like the slowness of baseball. It was different from the other sports. It's like turning on the golf broadcast and just listening to the sounds and taking a nap. But
no.
Where they're trying to get more fans to watch.
If it takes less time, does that mean tickets cost less?
Please. I mean, Kim, you could just go down to the East Bay and get a $2 ticket to the A's. It's not too much.
That is really brutal, Albert. I mean, that is really wrong.
What?
Yeah, seriously.
So another rule change that I didn't mention: no more infield shifting. So there's
that's right.
You can't stack infielders
now
to one
shifting
side
the
of the field
into the infield. So
yeah. So the game is a little bit different. Could be a lot of. At first, a faster pace, and it could be a lot of fun. We'll see.
Blue Sparks saying 2 beers equals $34. I will confirm. They did lower the concessions at the Giants game, so I will personally confirm this, and I'll report back to the Mark Thompson show.
It would be good if you could do a video, a little video, Albert. People love you. If you can do a little video, we'd appreciate it.
I would like that, yeah.
I'd love to share that.
Okay, good. A little shorty. That'd be good.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
If he doesn't do it, then you can run that drop. But otherwise, go ahead.
Oh, last note on the Giants game today. The pitcher for the Yankees is Garrett Cole. He is the brother-in-law of shortstop Brandon Crawford.
That is cool. That is very cool. Oh, good. All right, so that's your Major League Baseball news.
That is. Happy opening day 2023. I'm Kim McAllister on the Mark Thompson show.
Yeah, that...
What could this be? Let's look. So excited. It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Is CinemaScope.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Call me a liar. Now what you call me?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir?
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret talent?
Isn't anybody but a weed?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
And this is their new host.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
Wow. That was everything, complete with a message, a video message from Shadow, who got one of the Mark Thompson Show mugs. If you want a Mark Thompson Show mug of the sort that you see behind me, we have a couple of the mugs here on display, or you perhaps would like the Mark Thompson Show throw pillow, or you'd like a hoodie, or might I suggest the tote bag, and also this crossbody sling. It's all available to you, all of these luxurious items, at getmarkmerch.com. There you'll see, additionally, any number of items that bring a certain panache to life. The Mark Thompson hat, the Mark's Madness hat, the Mark Advanced Hydration System. You may call it a water bottle. We call it an advanced hydration system.
There's never been anything like this.
I think the throw pillows are pretty cool. I sent a throw pillow to Steve Moskowitz. I wonder if he still has it. I hope so.
I've been wishing for one during this illness.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's an idea, just to wish. I mean, it's a wild idea.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
I don't think it's working for me. No.
The pod holder, as I've
Where
told
are
you,
my weed smokers at?
all of the stuff, it's not that kind of pod holder. All the stuff that we send out as a show, I have to buy it off the website too.
That looks nice in the kitchen there.
It does really improve the look of any kitchen. It's Mark's Magic Pot Holder, and it's there at getmarkmerch.com. Everything is pretty competitively priced, so nothing. And this item is one of the lower cost items. That's only $15.
It might prevent burn injuries, but your insurance won't cover it.
Oh, there's that. Yeah. There's that. The Mark Thompson bottle opener, we haven't, a couple of people have sent me pictures of their using the bottle opener in various situations involving bottles. And when you have a situation with a bottle, you need a bottle opener. And what better opener? And this, I believe, has a, let me look. I believe it has a, yeah, it can open several different kinds of bottles. You see how the...
What?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into a whole how-to right now. But,
it's very well priced.
Yeah, it's well priced, and it does have the ability to both open the flip top and then the other kinds of bottles that you need to twist. So if you're someone who struggles with twisting, maybe you have arthritis or something like that, that, as suggested, very low-priced Mark Thompson bottle opener, $10, might be the thing for you. It's a
I'm sure the Mark Thompson bottle opener owners get a little distracted towards the end of the night after a good night, so they forget to send the pictures of them using the bottle opener.
I want a Mark Thompson beer glass. I don't think that that's in the pipeline, the development pipeline, but maybe. The sexy calendar is also not in the pipeline, Floyd. Thank you very much, though. Appreciate...
I like the comment section spitballing some ideas. We might pick some of them.
I get a lot of good feedback from the comment section. I do read it after the show.
We have a picture. The problem is I don't know who it's of.
Oh, well. Oh, this is, yeah, well, we need to find out who it is.
Let me go to the...
Yeah.
Let me check on this before we.
This is exactly.
Whoever is producing this thing
Well, that was
has
my
no
thought.
idea what they're doing.
Exactly.
But the picture's just so cute. I can see it in the picture thing.
It's definitely cute, but we can't. I mean, you can't just show it without knowing who it
Mark's
is.
merch is sailing through England. This is wonderful.
Right, and I had to. I forwarded it on to you.
Worldwide.
I know it is a great thing to take on the road with you. Yeah, it's a great conversation starter with people from foreign lands. So if you're going overseas, maybe it's the kind of thing that you want to bring. Anyway, you can get it all at getmarkmerch.com.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Exactly. Not everybody knows. We'll get you an ID on that picture in a moment. I wanted to mention the Pope has been hospitalized. Doesn't sound like he's in very good shape. He's 86 years old, the Pope. Has a lung infection, difficulty breathing recently, and he's going to be in the hospital for several days of treatment, according to the Vatican. Who's our big Pope guy? The guy who is the editor-in-chief of that Catholic magazine and newsletter is Joe Ferrullo. Remember, we had a really great conversation with Joe about religion and about Catholicism and the politics of it all. So I'm sure he's following this. But this is the hospitalization that has been the first one since Francis spent 10 days in July 2021 to have an operation. He had 13 inches of his colon removed. That was a big deal. So his overall health was spoken of as a question at that time, but now he's back in the hospital for 7 days of observation. As I say, he's having trouble breathing.
I do have
Why?
And they had this viral picture of him that went super viral on Twitter. This is actually an AI generated image, and a lot of people were just like, "Wow, look at the Pope got a nice jacket on."
Well, he's got a cross in this picture that it looks like a rapper should wear it. You know what I mean? Look how big that cross is. I mean, he's really representing the cross.
What? The Pope is the future.
Yeah. It's funny you say. When I saw it, I thought that's not real. You know, it's
that's not fake.
No,
that's real.
It's fake. It read to me, but by the same token, I thought maybe
it would. It was like the thought of it would be really cool. The Pope just all dripped out in this.
Yeah, it's on brand.
Like he's walking down the street in Manhattan or something.
Right. Anyway, that's
Pope Puff Daddy.
Yeah, exactly. Puffy.
I have an ID.
Okay.
This is Beth Farmer.
Yes, it is Beth Farmer.
We
big
love
supporter
Beth Farmer.
of the show. Yes, big supporter of the show. And Beth's in England, obviously. Gosh, I want to go to Europe. I want to do something. Jeez.
Beth writes, "Here I am with your comfortable sweatshirt in London. It's cold and drizzling."
I want that same experience, Beth. We should have coordinated. I love that you're there. Thank you so much for thinking of us and representing. And the sweatshirt, and then, of course, there's the hoodie, which would be even more on brand for kind of potentially cool situations.
That is the hoodie. It looks like a hoodie. It's blending in with the background, but I believe...
Oh, it is the hoodie. Okay. Yeah. Well, then there you go. I think that's the choice. That's the... Yeah, I guess we don't have come to think of it, a sweatshirt. It's not a hoodie.
Beth, you look cute. Yeah.
Yeah, very cute. So thank you for sending it to us. You can reach the show at themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. And I will also mention that the show is completely crowdfunded. And so if you have a business or you have a service and you're in the Bay Area particularly, because our footprint in the Bay Area is very strong, but throughout California or wherever, now it almost doesn't matter where any business is, particularly if it's service-oriented, if you have an accounting business. I think if you have a business related to health, I'd love to talk to you. You know, I think a lot, maybe I'm speaking for myself, a lot of people my age and the age of many who watch this show, we appreciate legitimate health information and health services. In any case, you can be a part of our show and you can get a limited sponsorship. It may be a news adjacency or something like that, you know. and it gives you a little visibility. And for a little bit of money, you have a chance to reach an audience and tell them you're out there. So, and more or less inform that audience as to your service or your business. If you have an interest, contact us at themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. But I will tell you that we are completely crowdfunded, so I appreciate everyone who's gone to Patreon and PayPal and who has added their name and added their money to our effort. In fact, I have new Patreon members that I wanted to acknowledge.
What?
Yeah. People are doing two things that are really cool. They're adding their names to Patreon with their money, and they're also upgrading the amount that they support us, which is really special. So here's an example. Lori just went from $10 to $15 a month. I mean, that's,
Thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you, Lori. Denise just went from $5 a month to $10 a month. Not a lot, maybe you may think, but that's what crowdfunding is. It's a little bit from a lot of people. Very, very cool. Even Bruce threw us a couple of dollars a month. Tom N, $20 a month as a patron.
Thank you.
Those are just a few of the people who have jumped on board. Rosa, $10 a month. John R for 10. Deb for 5. 7 from Peter D. Glenn, a new patron at $25 a month. Come on. I'm going to give you a big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you, Glenn, for $25 a month. Really cool. And then, of course, the Red Jack, regular supporters of ours, and they have the Martini. And with the Martini, every little bit of money that goes toward that Martini that, is not just basically covering costs, they spin off to us. And I got this email from Melissa E. Dear Mark, where do I begin? I'll try to be concise. Friday afternoon, I brought my 87-year-old mom home from the hospital. Did I read this already, Albert? I can't tell if I've read this already. I don't think
we did, but in short, she had a great experience at the Red Jack. And
Thank you.
Very welcome. And I think we showed the pictures too. She sent pictures in that email.
Did you read it when I wasn't here, or what was it? Why do I feel like I didn't read it, but somebody else did? Did Kim read it?
I did it.
Okay, That's it. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, so you've already heard it, so I'll just say thank you so much. The one thing I would say...
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Melissa. The one thing I would say is quite significant indeed. The one thing I would say is, I went on Yelp one day, and I looked at the Red Jack and seeing, they're such big supporters of ours. And if you look at the end credits of the show, you see their names in big font because they really are big monthly supporters of ours. And the stories about what people experience at the Red Jack so transcend what a bar and restaurant would do. Like it's an experience, clearly, that's extraordinary, like a kind of Cheers bar kind of experience that's just to people who've never been there before. So I was really impressed, and that email that I guess that Kim read when I wasn't here, I think I was traveling back from my dad's, it really does reflect what you hear from a lot of people on Yelp, even. I mean, even and on platforms that are designed to kind of talk about the experience they had at the Red Jack. So if you're in San Francisco, check them out, Red Jack Saloon. Albert, what am I doing? I've lost my way.
Up the rest of our shout outs here. We have a couple
Rich Cool, what up?
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Rich. Thank you for $5 in our virtual tip jar and $10 from Walter.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Aloha, baby. Wishing Kim good health. Kim gets a lot of love. I'm starting to get a little jealous of Kim. Pamela Kirby. for $20. Big
shout out.
Yeah, big shout out, Pamela. Thank you very much for throwing in on this first hour. Joe Fong, regular.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Not going to cry, Joe, but if anybody could get me there.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
You know it might be you.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
Thank you, all of you who throw into our virtual tip jar on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching in replay, there's a little heart with a $sign there. You click on that and you can leave us something if you're watching in replay as well. David Katz, the last word on things involving the law. He will join us in the next hour. Suing the gun manufacturers. Is that viable? How might it change life in America and our relationship to these military weapons? We'll talk to him about that next. And Belinda Waymouth with It's the Planet Stupid, recharging the groundwater in California, and that effort that's underway. Smash the like button like a boss.
With your iron rod.
The Mark Thompson Show. Yes, exactly.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. There is a new emergency system being considered for California. It's called Ebony Alert, very similar to the Amber Alert. This, though, would be specifically for missing Black children and young adults. The senator who introduced the bill said it would ensure that more resources are dedicated to finding them so they're not incorrectly listed as runaways. Last year, the Feather Alert system was signed into law, aimed at finding indigenous people reported missing as well. A top California lawmaker is trying to end a 7-year travel ban to nearly half the country. It restricts taxpayer-funded travel to 23 states with laws that discriminate against LGBTQ people. Senate Pro Tem Toni Atkins saying polarization is not working and it's time to adjust. She introduced a bill yesterday to lift the ban and set up a marketing campaign in the states with messaging to help build a bridge of inclusion and acceptance. Another mask mandate in California about to go away. Sayonara, sucker. Starting Monday, patients and visitors will no longer have to cover up inside healthcare settings like hospitals, doctor, and dental offices.
That's huge.
It's fantastic.
I mean, maybe it is or not. I don't know. But
Same for workers.
Yes.
But providers will still be required to mask up during procedures. So
What?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I see. So when you go to the dentist, doesn't the dentist know? No, not necessarily. The dentist doesn't always wear a mask pre-COVID, right?
I think if they're doing surgery on your mouth, maybe they do.
Well, surgery, yeah. But normally when they're just in there poking around with that, crochet hook or whatever they're doing, trying to see if you jump.
Right.
I just don't think, because I remember smelling the guy's breath before.
Oh, I
So
don't know
you
what's
couldn't do-
listed as a
yeah.
procedure, if it, it's invasive procedures or what, but
I see, yeah, it's all in the
I want
details.
everyone with a mask on from the receptionist on down, but
Yeah.
okay. It follows the governor ending the state's COVID emergency last month. Healthcare workers also will not be asked to prove that they've been vaccinated. Let me say that again. Healthcare workers will not be asked to prove that they've been vaccinated against COVID.
What?
Yeah, okay. Well, that's our posture toward vaccination has certainly changed.
The San Francisco group is putting out the call for help to plant new trees.
Or
The
a
city
posture
is-
toward COVID, I might add. It might have
Yeah.
less to do with it. Yeah, anyway, go ahead. They're planting more trees where?
Indeed. The city has lost at least 2,000 from all the wind and rain during this wave of storms. That is why Friends of the Urban Forest could use some extra hands. The nonprofit is in charge of replacing fallen trees, which have crushed homes, cars, and fences across the Bay Area. Along with volunteers, the group is also looking for private donations. So that is Friends of the Urban Forest looking for volunteers and help to plant trees around San Francisco.
No, that seems like a good effort. That would be a fun effort to be part of, maybe, huh?
Right. Maybe we should do it from part of the Mark Thompson Show crew.
I'd love that. I really would love that.
Yeah.
I'll meet you out there.
I'll be there with
All
my
right.
Mark Thompson Show hat on and my
There you
hydration
go.
system,
Now you're talking.
ready to rock and roll. I'm
Yeah.
Kim McAllister, and this is the Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. Now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
And this is their new host.
How would you have this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
You cannot say you love your country.
Morning.
Where are my weed smokers at?
What's a guilty pleasure you have?
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
There's never been anything like this.
What can you tell us about the scene?
What he's got going here is a situation.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Big shout out.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Woo! Right on, everybody. Welcome. Hour 2, Mark Thompson Show. I'm Mark. Glad to have everybody back. Kim is now not at full strength, but she's still with us, which is cool.
How are you?
Yeah. And we will have David Katz this hour, I think. I've been in touch with him back and forth yesterday. So it's all a question of Albert getting a hold of him. And as you know, oftentimes the connection to David Katz can be made complicated by any number of factors that I don't really understand. So
well, Mark, that does give us some time, right?
It gives us some time to do something that we love to do. And you know what that is.
Now,
yeah, baby.
Mark's Madness.
Damn straight. And now it's getting tough. You're going to vote for either this.
What he's got going here is a situation.
Situation or...
There's never been anything like this.
Oh, man.
What he's got going here is a situation.
Situation or...
There's never been anything like this.
One or the other. Voting till midnight tonight in the community section of our YouTube channel. Wow, that is a very tough one. And these are all now on a level that make it very, very tough, right? I don't know. I think never been anything like this because it's Trump. I feel like it's going to lose. But
I got an email the other day from a very loyal viewer, a lovely woman, who said she was upset with us for using Trump's voice.
Oh, yeah, no, I know there's a lot of that.
Because she doesn't want to hear Trump anymore. She's so disgusted with him that she just doesn't want him to win anything. She doesn't want to hear the voice. It is a little bit post-traumatic stress disorder when you hear the guy, right? It's like, oh, God, you're shocked back into hell. But
yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I get
again, it's important to remember how ridiculous he is, right?
Well, exactly.
I just want to find 11,780.
Yeah, so this is true. I understand, can, as Kim says, sort of provoke a reaction in you. But the reality is he's very relevant. And
there's never been anything like this.
More to the point of what Kim's saying, there's an absurdist aspect to everything he says, since you know he's talking out of his A. Right. And I mean, he's just, even the light inside the body. I mean, that's
supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reminder of, the ridiculousness, right?
Yeah, and as Maude says, it's hilarious and ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just I thought he talked like a mobster in addition to acting like a mobster. In any case, he is in the hunt now. I mean,
there's never been anything like this.
He's made it all the way. That drop has been made it all the way, and it's up again.
What he's got going here is a situation.
So you can vote if you don't like Trump, but Tom says, I cringe and mute every time I hear Trump's voice. Okay.
Oh, no.
Well, I guess you'll go for situation then.
What he's got going here is a situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walter says it's a reminder of the absurdity.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think
never
that's
been
important
anything
not
like
to
this.
forget,
Right.
you know?
Makes me laugh because I think he's so laughable, but sadly, because of the way we set up elections in this country, he's a viable presidential candidate. I mean, more than viable, he leads the field. So, well, Albert, without Katz, I don't know what happened. Can you call him? Are you trying to call him maybe now? I don't know what. Yeah, so I'm just going to discuss it and tell you that you most certainly can sue gun makers, despite what you may have heard. There's a claim out there that gun makers are exempted from lawsuit. That's just not true. Gun manufacturers have legal protections that shield them from most lawsuits. This does not mean they are exempt from being sued. This is according to many legal experts. I was going to hear it from David Katz, but you can have confidence this is based on more than one legal expert's opinion. They're not the only industry with protections like this. Like COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers have legal shields as well. As you know, you sign that thing that essentially indemnifies them. Indemnifies a ding word. Here he is.
Oh, here he is. Yeah, because I was going to tell you about this case with the relatives of the Colorado shooting victims suing Storm Ruger. Yeah,
exactly.
So let's talk about it.
That's a real example of what we're talking about, that their lawsuit's ongoing. That was in 2019.
Well, it's going on right now.
Right, but I'm saying the shooting, I think, was in 2019.
Right.
David, do we have him or not, Albert? Once we have him, you let me know. The gun manufacturers, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say the story posted 2 days ago out of Stamford, Connecticut. And they're saying that some of the arguments over these relatives suing Storm Ruger and company was over how it marketed the firearm that was used in that killing. That is in addition to litigation filed against the company for even making the gun. So they're saying, how you try to sell it is, imperative and important, because if you're selling it in the back of a magazine to people who may be off their rocker, that's important.
No. It's hard for these cases to reach court, is my understanding. The Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, only in America. It gives immunity to gun makers so they can't be held liable for injuries caused by criminal misuse of their weapons. Congress feared that liability could put firearms sellers and manufacturers out of business, and for that reason, they passed in 2005 the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, PLCAA for short. Another purpose of the law was to protect a citizen's access to buy and use firearms for legal purposes. The law includes 6 exceptions where firearm manufacturers or dealers can be held liable for damages that their weapons cause. These exceptions include defects or damages in the design of the gun, negligence or breach of contract or warranty regarding the purchase of a gun. Another one, called the predicate exception, means the manufacturer or seller knowingly violated a state or federal law related to the sale or marketing of a firearm. That's what you were talking about, Kim.
Well, and just another chunk of history. Apparently, the relatives of victims of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting also sued. 20 kids and 6 educators died in that shooting. The lawsuit led to a $73 million settlement with Remington last year. So $73 million the gun manufacturer paying.
And might it be possible to bring such a lawsuit against other gun manufacturers that are related
David Katz
to.
is ready, everyone.
All right, let's ask David Katz. It is always an effort, and it always adds a little drama for us as to how he's going to join, when he's going to join, whether he's going to join. But the audience looks forward to him joining, as do I. He's the former assistant U.S. attorney and prosecutor for the feds. He knows the law. Now he's defending people. He's defense attorney. He is, I think, the legal ninja is what I call him. David Katz, everyone.
Great to be with you, Mark, Kim. And it's not
sir.
whether I join. I always manage to join. But yes, there is sometimes some drama, whether it's audio, video from New York. But I always join.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I always feel like we're right on the precipice of you not joining, but you're right. You always seem to make it, which is very, very cool. Precipice is a ding word, by the way.
And you're looking good today.
You are looking good.
You
very professional.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard what the lead in, and the Remington case, the $73 million is a very interesting case. Of course, it was Sandy Hook, which was so awful. They're all awful, but God, was that one awful. They got them on a marketing claim that they had marketed the guns in a way that they could find liability and get the $73 million. But, you know, the law from 2005 means that you can't just sue them like you can sue other people. That part of what President Biden said is true, that they do have a rather unique immunity, but it was passed by Congress. And, you know, these, the idea was that if people could sue the gun manufacturers and the ammunition makers for the amount of damage that they really caused, if they could sue them for wrongful death like they sue other people, they would wipe them out of business. Whether they ought to be wiped out of business is something else that we could debate. But in rural areas, it became just toxic, the idea of the gun manufacturers being knocked out of business. So there were some very strange bedfellows who passed that law back in 2005, giving the gun manufacturers such great immunity. Adam Schiff, who's running for Senate here, voted against it, as did most people from urban areas. But Bernie Sanders famously voted for it because there he was out in Vermont. He wanted to run for Senate. You remember when Bloomberg was running in the Democratic primary, that was a key issue that he used against Sanders, including in California, that, you know, Sanders was bought and paid for by the National Rifle Association. Of course, that's not true. But the reality is it's very hard legislation to change with the Republicans in control of the House. Mark, there doesn't seem any prospect that that legislation is going to change. And so you have to find a very creative basis, like they did in the Remington case, in order to sue. You can't just, they say, well, you could sue because the gun does it, you know, a normal defect. Like if you buy a vacuum cleaner and it's defective. But, you know, the gun does what it's supposed to do. The shooter aims it and hits the target. It doesn't backfire, right? And so this idea that you can sue them because it's such a dangerous instrumentality, that's what you can't sue them for. And it's extremely frustrating. So the states like California, Mark, have tried to come up with ways that you can sue them, bearing in mind that there is what we call federal preemption. It was the intent of Congress to keep the manufacturers of firearms alive and not facing these huge lawsuits that would basically put them out of business. And that has preempted local laws, state laws. And that's why sometimes when these judges rule for the NRA and the gun lobby, and it's so infuriating, there is a federal law in this area that preempts a lot of the state legislation. Now, they've tried to pass laws that they're nuisances and to go after them civilly as nuisances. Those all get challenged. And then, of course, there's the famous New York pistol case from the U.S. Supreme Court that made it even harder because now for gun control legislation, it has to fit the historical contours of what happened back in the late 1700s and 1800s. You know, the critics say they've made these gun historians rich because they have to have experts in all these cases now. And to show you how absurd it is, there's a case right now in the U.S. Supreme Court which involves whether people who've been convicted of domestic violence or have domestic violence orders against them, like restraining orders for domestic violence, whether those people can be restricted from buying guns. And believe it or not, there are members of the Supreme Court, hopefully not a majority, who who may feel that, well, wait a second. Yes, back in the 1800s, unacceptable people were not allowed to have guns, but it didn't exactly fit because it wasn't domestic violence, because in those days, supposedly, we were such a patriarchy that men could beat their wife. And so there weren't very many domestic violence laws in the 1800s. Now, if they're going to engage in that kind of reasoning, facts don't matter. Common sense don't matter. The gun lobby has taken over the Supreme Court and taken over the Congress. And it really is scary for things like sending your kids to school. It's really a scary world we're living in right now. But the question is, how remediable is it?
Yeah, and I just would mention this is less law and more culture. But I think, culture and the law do, and I think you've just demonstrated how, overlap each other. It used to be the NRA that everybody talked about. It's not the NRA anymore. I made this point, I think, to David K. Johnston the other day. The NRA doesn't have a lot of money anymore. The top executive suites at the NRA, in a corrupt way, they took all the money and they used it for themselves. They built big mansions. They took expensive trips. They literally gutted the organization of millions of dollars. And so the bankruptcy of the NRA, or the teetering on the verge of bankruptcy of the NRA, is well known. What's happened is these assault weapons and these guns of all sorts, weapons of war, are becoming part of the American culture. They're becoming baked into some sort of displaced machismo, or you see Lauren Boebert has it on her Christmas card. The other Congressman Massey had it on his Christmas card. All the kids are holding assault rifles these military weapons as they pose in front of a Christmas tree. This is not just a couple of instances. There are a lot of these things going on. So I feel as though the culture of America has shifted. And so that, alongside the way that they have completely prevented us from going after these gun manufacturers, it only reinforces a gun culture in America, David.
Well, I think that you raised an excellent point, and it has become kind of a fetish.
Thank you. That's a good word.
You hope that it will pass. But, and everyone points out the commonsensical thing that you don't need these assault weapons to hunt. You don't need them for personal protection. You just don't. I mean, even the people who think that the Second Amendment allows the cases that we've had, they were basically 5-4 for hundreds of years, over 100 years. No one thought the Second Amendment gave you a right to keep or to keep arms at home, much less to bear them, to open carry them. Nobody thought. The courts didn't rule any of them until this started to happen. And there's been this revolution. Scalia and a few of the other Federalist Society justices suddenly found this right. A lot of people had thought, the courts had always thought, that it was the right to organize into militias, and those state militias organized by the government could have guns. It goes back to our whole revolutionary period, and having the muskets and fighting the redcoats and the invaders, the Brits. This idea that everybody could run around and keep and bear arms. Well, we've gone this far. It doesn't look like this Supreme Court's going to reverse Heller. So now we have not only the right to keep arms at home for self-protection to some extent, but also to bear them, which is even scarier. And it seems like that they don't summon in some of these places the police. They invade the Michigan State House, and where are the police? But some of the Republican assembly members there think it's great fun, and they think that they can intimidate their opponents with this, and they go to school board meetings. And this is what Merrick Garland, he's taken a lot of criticism over it, but this was what he was worried about with these really raucous meetings, that they're not only raucous, people screaming and using foul language and threatening people, but people are armed because they're open carry states where they're doing these things. And yes, we're at a very, very bad place, and with this Supreme Court precedent. And now, if even in a domestic violence case where someone has gotten a restraining order, you cannot bar the person from having guns. We're at a scary place.
Yeah, and I mentioned yesterday the move on the part of Tennessee and Kentucky both to do what you're talking about, to prevent red flag laws from going into effect, and prevent families and loved ones from getting guns out of the hands of those who they know will use them in awful ways. And the last thing I will just say, just because it's showing up in the chat a little bit, when it comes to, and you mentioned the word hunting, I love how hunting is. First of all, I don't get hunting. I could never pull that trigger, but that's just me. I understand. There are people who grow up with that kind of thing, but I would say you should look at what happens when an AR-15 or a military-style assault rifle is fired at a living creature. It liquefies that creature. It's not a bullet like we're used to seeing. They need to identify these kids by DNA, all right? So don't tell me, hunters, that you need these weapons to hunt. And the second thing I would say, David, is that I'm seeing this show up. What happens if you take away all these weapons and only the government has those weapons? The government will always have bigger weapons than you have, okay? It doesn't matter how big your weapon is. They have helicopters, they have huge numbers of people that will come and get you if that's what you're worried about. So I don't get the argument in either one of those cases, but again, you hear that rolling around and it feels as though it's a circular argument at that. And then you talk about the constituencies. You're so right to talk about that, I think. And we forget the constituencies even include Bernie Sanders sometimes when it comes to votes on gun control. So it's a sad, pathetic situation we're in.
Mark, we're so polite when it comes to this debate, from the gun control point of view. But, you're absolutely right that when the 187th Airborne shows up, it really doesn't matter that you're there with your pistol, with your rifle, or with your assault rifle. It doesn't matter at all. Of course, if you really want to be critical, the government wouldn't need to go that far. They could really cut off the government benefits that, so many of these people who are so anti-government rely on. They have their AK at home and they take it with them when they go down to get their Social Security check, their PPP check, their whatever it is. And so it really gets tiresome to hear all these people who are always against the government until, of course, they want stuff from the government. And then all the government largesse is just great as long as it's going to them and the people that they can relate to. When it's going to people that they can't relate to, then all of a sudden, how come we have this big government? How come the government's pushing us around? How come the IRS does this? How come, they do the other thing? And the idea, now I understand about the personal protection. That has been a problem. If you live like in a really bad neighborhood and the cops are scared to come out, that's one of the problems with why I don't agree with defund the police, because the police are needed in the communities of color. They're needed in the poorest communities. They get taken over by gangs. I think a lot of people who have this anti-police mentality have never lived. I lived in like in an area of New York which needed police protection. Then we moved to a better neighborhood. But I have a sense of it. And I think if people had more of a sense of it, of what it is to have a neighborhood that's really overrun by gangs and people who have illegal guns, they understand why we need the police. I'm not sure how much it really protects you to have a gun. A lot of times, Mark, if you have a gun, you just increase the level of violence. That's the reality.
The suicide rate in homes that have guns is way high, and the accidents involving guns way high. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a gun at home. I really don't care about a gun at home. I care about these caches of weapons that are. This Tennessee shooter had 7 weapons. 5 of which I believe were these military-style assault rifles. I just call them. It's a sad state, I think, that we find ourselves in, and we're unique in all the world with it. It's insanity. It's a special kind of U.S. insanity.
We are unique in the world, and these domestic violence incidents are so much more likely to end up in death or serious damage when there's guns around.
Thank you.
It's true that people sometimes, hit each other with a knife or hit each other with their hands or whatever, but it just does not escalate to the level of death or these serious injuries that we have because of guns in the house in domestic violence cases. And as you say, suicides, there's accidental shootings, kids get their hands on guns. And it's a problem that other countries, developed countries, countries that have more security than we do, they don't have this problem. They have much less of it.
I'm still going to drop a video with my friend who lives in Canada and grew up in the U.S. at different military bases where there were guns that were locked up, he says, all the time. But he says it's so weird to watch what's happening in America from Canada, because in Canada, the firearm thing is viewed as a third rail. You're not allowed to have it. Before I pivot to, I'm going to ask you quickly before we lose the great David Katz. I want to get to Gwyneth Paltrow in a second, but I have a question not related to, it's sort of just a general question. 10 of the 17 deadliest mass killings in the U.S. since 2012 involved AR-15s. In Vegas, 60 dead. Newtown, of course, we talked about it, 27 dead. Texas, 25. Uvalde, 21. Parkland, 17. San Bernardino, 14, etc. Aurora, Colorado, 12. I mean, you just go back, and this weapon is at the center of more and more of these deadliest mass killings. So now I want to talk to you about a celebrity trial. Just quickly, we understand Gwyneth Paltrow, and you were so great in explaining who had the right of way. Review just quickly. In the trial, it's about Gwyneth and this guy hitting each other on the slopes. One says, he hit me. The other says, she hit me. It's been percolating for some time. Who has the right of way? The downhill skier has the right of way, right?
Right. So you've got to not hit the person below you. Just like in a car, you've got to not hit the person in front of you.
Okay.
And
so here's my question, though. We were talking about it the other day. She's turned down the glam, right? I mean, you're not seeing the red carpet Gwyneth Paltrow. You're seeing the, courtroom Gwyneth Paltrow. And that's clearly because, I mean, historically, it must be bad to be, a shimmering celebrity client. I mean, it just doesn't engender you in any kind of positive way with the jury. But I want to ask you, a celebrity client generally, is that a good thing to have as an attorney? Would you like to be defending a celebrity client in this case? There she is. Or would you prefer it just be an every person client?
Well, let's not make this short. This is an interesting topic. We're always... Your commenters say Katz is always giving us bad news because we're talking about the intractable U.S. Supreme Court majority of 6-3, or we're talking about trying to do something about the gun laws, which is so infuriating, and you feel like it's so futile sometimes, but people shouldn't. We have to just always keep organizing, voting, trying to make a difference, changing the world for the better. But it's so funny what you ask, because Martha Stewart, when she was on trial and she got convicted of insider trading, they asked the jurors afterwards, so what'd you think of the evidence? What'd you think of the lawyers? And what they remembered was that she had a $10,000 purse. So you have to, if you're a criminal defense attorney or a plaintiff's lawyer, defense lawyer, you have to always think, how is the jury relating to your client? Don't have your client wear a huge Rolex watch. But if they are a celebrity, they are a celebrity. The criminal defense lawyers who tell you, I wouldn't have represented OJ, they didn't get the call to represent OJ. So I think a lot of this, if you're a criminal defense attorney or you're an attorney, you want to do the most interesting case that comes to you. You want it to obviously pay your bills. One of the other great stories, Mark, was a famous female actress said about her famous attorney. She said, he believes in my case so much, he's not even charging me a fee. And of course, she was trying to be, trying to show how much he believed in her, what altruism. Of course, the insiders, the lawyers all said, my God, his practice must be slow that he'd take that case for no money. And who even knew if that was true or not? So you have a level. I represented, like I said, I've never represented anyone as famous as Paltrow, but I do a lot of these criminal tax defenses. And so I've had people, major business people. I've had all kinds of entrepreneurs and stuff like that. But I also had America's favorite porn star about 20 years ago, who was alleged not to have paid a whole bunch of her taxes. We'll call her Susie.
Susie, okay. Susie
we'll
was America's favorite.
Susie.
Okay,
I was still a professor in those days when I won her case. So my students, when I met with the class again after that, had written on the board in huge letters, Professor Katz got Susie off. So not exactly a headline I could put up in my office. So
it was great. I loved it.
A lot of strange things happened with celebrities. Can I tell you one more story? Since
Please.
It's baseball's opening day. One of my famous cases when I was still an assistant U.S. attorney prosecuting cases was we had a tax shelter. And two of my witnesses, who were purely witnesses, they had nothing to do with any of the criminality. They were just used by the tax shelter scammers to make videotapes or audio tapes that they were then going to market and claim they were hugely valuable. And then they were going to give the investors these big tax write-offs, big tax credits that they could put on their tax return and save more money than they put into the scheme. So Tommy Lasorda and Vincent Price were my star witnesses.
Oh, that's very cool.
So the defendants were left to argue that the tapes had been made in like 1983, when in fact they'd been made they'd been made in 82, which was the year they were giving the tax benefit for, Mark, when in fact they'd been made in 83. So they had to backdate the documents. So I needed to call Tommy and Vincent Price to the stand in federal court. By now it was 1989 when the case was being tried. Vincent Price had the Thriller, the great
sure, yeah,
that he did around Halloween. I always think of him because you hear it all the time, the Michael Jackson song on the radio with his fantastic voice over in it. And of course, Tommy Lasorda had won the World Series with the famous Kirk Gibson home run World Series in 1988. Right. So they did not want to be bothered with this case from 1982, 83, but they had to be. So I had to call Tommy to the stand. The defendant wanted to go to trial because he had to try to leave the jury with the impression that maybe Tommy had walked around with his check from the time he made the tape in December 82. He'd walked around with it for a month or two. So I have Tommy Lasorda on the stand. This is when we still had a tabloid in LA. So they were covering this case, breathlessly. And I said to Tommy, are you sure you didn't walk around with that check? Maybe you walked around with it in your wallet for a month or two. Tommy says, I hammer my checks. I said, it just came to me. I said, even your Dodger check? He says, I hammer my Dodger check. So, of course, that was the headline the next day. So whenever you're involved with celebrities, weird things happen, right? Because the world is so interested. Generally speaking, word of wisdom to anyone who's a lawyer or going to be a lawyer in your audience, keep your client out of the papers in a criminal case. It almost never helps. It may help the attorney try to get business, but it almost never helps the client, because even if your client gets acquitted, a lot of people think, oh, well, he's just some rich guy. He paid Katz, he got off, but it was because he had money. A lot of people, even when they see you're found not guilty, don't think you're not guilty. They think somehow you played the system, you had a great lawyer, there was some technicality. Keep your client out of the media if you're the lawyer.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the media is always going to cherry pick testimony. And when they report the court case, you're getting a slight little bit of what actually went on in the courtroom. You make such a good point that way. Well, David, some good news. Well, I don't have good news, but neither good nor bad on the celebrity case. And then, of course, it's just all bad when it comes to assault weapons and this country and the law. I mean, the reality is you can't sue unless something went wrong with the weapon. I mean, it seems like, that's just in itself.
Find something clever like the marketing thing. It's really a case for good lawyering. And a lot of the big firms now are taking these cases. It's not just the gun manufacturers that have great lawyers. There's some great lawyers facing them. And they need to keep trying. And of course, the legislatures need to keep trying. And in this state, we're trying. The governor just had this idea, since Texas was going to pay a ransom to a $10,000 ransom for ratting on somebody. Governor Newsom said, turnabout is fair play. Why don't we have that with people who violate the gun laws? You ought to be able to go snitch on them. I don't like the idea, but I get where he was coming from. And especially if the courts say it's legal and they want to fight that hard every abortion in Texas, why not fight that hard in California every use or possession of an illegal weapon here? There are laws against guns. There's waiting periods. There are people who are not allowed to have guns. We still have this very vigorous enforcement when it comes to domestic violence, restraining orders. You can't have a gun. And so we need to enforce those laws. And if someone finds out that the law is not being enforced and they inform on somebody, they have this law, at least for the moment, where they get the...
For the moment. I mean, the California law is being challenged at the federal level as well, as you know. So it's just, it's a tough spot. I was going to say, I love that you say, but you got to fight for it. You got to keep the fight up. Out of time, David, thank you. Albert, from now on, I want David, we can try to hook him up a few minutes ahead of time so we get him on time. Don't you think?
It wasn't Albert's fault today. That was my fault today.
Don't ever say it wasn't Albert's fault. It's all
whoever is reducing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
What a lame excuse, but there just were no parking spots.
That's all right. It's great to have you on. Good to talk to you, Dave. We'll talk next week. Thanks, David Katz. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I got to clip that, Mark. Every time we get David, I'm going to clip that. Yeah.
It's not David's. It's not Albert's fault. How dare he say that? That's against the ethic of the show. It's not Albert's fault. We have a good one going this hour, and it's on top of the last good one last hour, and these is still, you can vote until midnight tonight. Let me put my credibility glasses on. The Why Are You Yelling?
Why are you yelling?
Is going up against the Texas drop, isn't it?
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Right, so those are still way live. That voting is going on in YouTube in the community section of our channel. Again, you'll vote for either the Why Are You Yelling?
Why are you yelling?
Or the...
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Yeah. Now, what's going on this hour is two new ones.
Now, I can't believe it! Mark's Madness.
It's either...
What he's got going here is a situation.
Oh, yeah. The situation versus...
There's never been anything like this.
Right. I'm sorry, I laugh when I hear that, but all right. It's either situation...
What he's got going here is a situation.
Or, of course, the...
There's never been anything like this.
You'll have until midnight tonight to vote in the community section of our YouTube channel, and you can there see which one is ahead of the other. Good luck! Now, we have to make a very difficult decision, but because Katz joined late, I think we really don't have time. What do you think, Kim? We have to kind of get to Belinda.
There's really only one story I want to mention.
Okay,
and
so let's do...
I feel like we'd be remiss, and I'll just mention it now.
Well, no, you can't just mention it. We
Why?
have to have... Because there's a sounder and an intro. It has to run.
Oh, Lord.
No, don't oh Lord me. These are in the
I
bylaws.
was just trying to get it done quickly.
Albert, forward the bylaws of the show to Kim. She clearly has forgotten them. I mean,
whoever is producing this thing has
you,
no
Albert.
idea what they're
I blame you,
doing.
Albert, for her not knowing that is the way the show goes. All right, Belinda is upcoming.
I'm Kim McAllister with one story on the Mark Thompson Show. But thank you for the intro. Okay, I wanted to let you know this because I think it's important that we understand that something may be happening yet again. The White House is warning Americans, of course, not to travel to Russia after reports Russian authorities have detained a Wall Street Journal reporter. 31-year-old Evan Gershkovich is a U.S. citizen based in Moscow. Here's a picture of Evan. Evan is denying the charges. White House saying it is in touch with the reporter's employer and family, as well as the Russian government. Russia's main security agency says this American reporter is being held on suspicion of espionage. Again, Evan Gershkovich is 31. He's denying these charges. But again, it's just you hearken back to the Brittany Griner case. And so what will it take to get Evan Gershkovich home now? So this is a story that is relatively new and one that we're following here on the Mark Thompson Show.
Yes.
That's it. I'm Kim McAllister, and we're right off to the environment.
Yeah, very well done.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet stupid. No. It's the planet stupid.
It is the planet. The news can oftentimes be grim, but sometimes it can be uplifting. And after a long drought, it would appear that this winter has brought us some relief. The extent of that relief, how it's affecting groundwater supplies, reservoirs, we've discussed off and on here, and I think it will be the focus of some discussion with our eco-journalist, Belinda Waymouth, everybody. Hi, Belinda.
Good morning. How are you?
We're well, and I'm,
fantastic.
What's that?
I said fantastic. It's good to be well.
Oh, fantastic, yes. Yeah. So, well, let's get right into it. What's happening? What is happening with our groundwater supplies?
So obviously, the storms that have been hitting us, and I just sort of can't believe it, just the rain just keeps on coming, and it's, it's wild. And it's like we're having, weather whiplash. We've gone from the 3 driest years in California, and now it's a deluge. But, this is what the scientists, have been telling us. The droughts will be, drougtier, they'll be worse. And when it's wet, it will be wetter. And it's been incredibly destructive, and I really don't want to, it would be remiss not to acknowledge that, because I know for a lot of people, what has happened this winter has been devastating, and the destruction has been huge. But on the other hand, we needed all this water, and it's been really amazing. And I sent, I don't know if you can show it, Kim, it's got some hilarious music that goes with it, but, the recharging of the Diamond Valley Lake Reservoir, which started this week, they turned on the taps. It's been, it supplies 6 million people, and, they could barely give water, for a long time. And to see that being recharged, and they say by the end of the year, because, the snowpack that's up there in the Sierra Nevada, how we get our water during the year is as that snowpack melts and it recharges the aquifers. Well, they say Diamond Valley Lake will be completely back up to full by the end of the year. So, that's amazing. And then, the other story that is really incredible are all these groundwater recharging projects that are happening. What happened in 2014, California passed a law, and it, said, look, water has to be used sustainably. We have to, recharge groundwater. We can't just be, letting farmers, just keep on taking, groundwater out. And, when you don't have surface water, which is what the water that we're supposed to use, rivers, lakes, and feeding into our reservoirs, of course, we go into groundwater. And in California, when it's a drought, 60% of the water is coming from, those supplies underground. And then in a non-drought year, it drops down to 40. But what's really wild is looking at these farmers become water farmers. They are flooding their fields. They're flooding fields. And obviously not all fields can be flooded, but, Don Cameron, it's a field that he grew tomatoes on. And you can do pistachios, you can do grapes. What he says, as long as the water stays cool, this is not going to be, damaging to this land. And it's really amazing, because what happened was, first of all, in the, Great Central Valley that we have, it was the water agencies that were creating these basins to collect the water and to recharge, the water table, the water that we don't see that's,
Right.
Under the surface, and the aquifers. And then they started, educating and enlisting farmers. And what farmers who really, they know that, water isn't just life, it's their livelihoods, no water, no crops. And so the fact that, these, because that you can't just have these few basins, catching rain in the wet years, they need vast tracts of farmland to really scale up this project. And so farmers are getting on board, and they're doing it. It hasn't actually, from what I, have been sort of gathering, is it's not, what they're hoping for is, free water in the future, and maybe there'll be money. I mean, obviously there will be compensation, because this is an enormous thing to do as a farmer, but the other thing that's happened to farmers is some of them, because of water restrictions, have just had to, leave their fields fallow. So obviously to flood them is way better, flooding better than fallow. That seems like a no-brainer, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you want something going on the field. This is an interesting question that came up. I believe I just saw it maybe from Grady. Aren't aquifers much more important than lakes? I don't know what's more important. I think they both, but maybe you do know.
Well, here's the thing about aquifers. I remember being, taught this in one of my, geography classes, is, we really should look at an underground aquifer like our long-term investments. We don't touch those. You put those money in those long-term investments and you leave it there. And that's how aquifers should be treated. I mean, they say that water in, underground aquifers can be 1,500 years old. It's taken centuries and centuries, to build up, that, huge supply. And it really isn't something that we should just be, going into and draining. That said, the Ogallala, aquifer, is empty because of all the farms in, what are the states that use the Ogallala? I mean, it's the hugest underground aquifer, on this continent, and it's, drained, for farming. And
has it been pumped for rebottling also? I know there was a lot of that going on just a few years ago by Nestle, etc.
Well, Nestle, they come and take the easy water. Oh, they wouldn't be drilling into an aquifer, Mark. They just like to go where there's a river that's right upstream of, a California reservoir that, supplies the whole of San Francisco. That's where Nestle likes to get their water. Super accessible and easy, and they just siphon it off in their big trucks and, drive merrily away and barely pay for it. So, that bottling our water and selling it back to us in a plastic bottle, I mean, egregious, nefarious, let me use as many dang words as I can. That is a horrific thing.
That's
all
great.
These states let, Nestle get away with. It's terrible. So how you should look at the water is, the groundwater, what's in the rivers and the lakes, that's our, ready cash. And then, the savings account is when it's, goes into the, the reservoirs, and then the long-term investment is the deep water stuff and, down in the aquifers. And if you look at parts of California, I'll see if I can find these photos, but the water table, because of, farmers digging wells, there are places in California that, have sunk, I can't remember if it's 70 feet. I mean, there are these really wild pictures of poles showing you, how far down the land has subsided because of all the water that's been taken out, from the water table, the below surface water.
I remember you mentioning that in a report, many months ago, that's been one of these weird aspects of losing that groundwater is the sort of concave nature of the land. All of a sudden it sinks. Concave is a ding word.
So we have to be, it's the wise use of resources, but there are a lot of people to feed, and there are a lot of people, to hydrate, and And what I really love about this, this groundwater recharging is, the thing I always say, I love, low tech, high impact. This is low tech, high impact. This is taking flooding water from all these storms and diverting it onto your farmlands and just basically turning them into a sea, and then watching the water, sink into the earth. So I'm really glad that California is doing it. There is
Kim has a note. What is it, Kim, my dear?
Oh, I just wondered if Belinda,
how are you?
Sent me a video of the snowpack at a Sierra resort. Did you want me to show that?
Well, actually, it was further down in that piece is the video of the Diamond Valley Lake being recharged, and I can't remember if it's CBS, but they've put this really dramatic music on, sort of like to really get your heartstrings going, seeing the water come back in, but it kind of
don't run it because I got a copyright strike on the music. If you run it, you can mute it. Unfortunately,
because I've got something else I wanted to talk about very quickly, and this is not good news, but I sort of feel like this story came out yesterday, and it's just so it's sort of I don't know, it's a bit of a punch in the guts, really.
Please go ahead. What is that?
Okay, so as part of the Inflation Reduction Act, to get, basically Biden sort of had to get in bed with the devil, and the devil is the recalcitrant Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, who would only sign on to the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, if Biden, along with, all this money, the biggest amount of money ever put towards, the shift to renewables, would also open up Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico to drilling. And we know what's happened, the Willow Project, that's now, we talked about that on the show. And then yesterday came, they opened up bids for a swath of the Gulf of Mexico that is the size of Italy. It is so insane. It abuts right up to Louisiana and Texas. You know, we already.
So this is drilling in the Gulf.
Yeah, drilling in the Gulf. And so bids started last night. And so what Biden has sort of essentially done, and I get it's that sort of old school politics, you know, you've got to give something to get what you want, but you've given away the benefits that we're going to reap from all this other stuff, you know, all these monies going towards, you know, renewables and people in their houses if they want to change to heat pumps and, you know, induction stoves, you know, get an electric car. All of that has sort of been wiped out. If you know, let them drill in the Gulf of Mexico, hello? I mean, literally my head was spinning like Linda Blair when I was reading this story. I just was like, you know, and I did know that he had, you know, made these concessions to get, you know, Senator Manchin to sign on. But, you know, when you see how quickly it happens and you know how devastating it is going to be. And on top of that, there was a paper just published in the Harvard Law Review that says, hey, you know what? We actually can take oil companies to court for homicide because they are killing people, and that is illegal. That legally is possible. And so I just feel like, you know, I really do have kind of whiplash right now. All this, you know.
Yeah. The good news and the bad. By the way, I'll ding Swath. I think that the amazing thing that is so tough, as you say, you maybe put it in the whiplash category, is that these promises from politicians, and Joe Biden isn't alone in this regard, he's certainly the highest profile, but where there will be no new drilling, full stop, under my administration. That's what Joe Biden said, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
And then he okays the Willow Project, and we've talked about why, some of the reasons why the Willow Project but I told you why I felt you should contest that project. You should put it off as long as you can. I mean, I get it. You're going to lose in court. Fine. Do what Donald Trump does. Go to court anyway, even though you know you're going to lose. It's going to be a long time in court, okay? This is pristine land. Now you're in the Gulf. You're okaying drilling in the Gulf. This just in. Not the safest thing to drill in the Gulf anyway. I'll remind you of Deepwater Horizon and the entire accident involving essentially fouling all of the Gulf Coast. There are businesses there that depend on that. There are fisheries that depend on it. But it's just it's kind of an eco-suicide that these guys do with this crap. And I'm really disheartened by it as well. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're coming up on the 13th anniversary of Deepwater Horizon. And, you know, all those, you know, the wetlands, the bayou, the mangroves, all the defenses that, you know, have already been destroyed. I mean, we talked about how much Louisiana is disappearing, you know, a football field, you know, every hour or whatever. I mean, it's so insane. We saw Hurricane Katrina and the devastation. And the other thing that, you know, is so heartbreaking for Louisiana is, where does all that oil get refined? It gets refined in Cancer Alley in Louisiana, where, you know, low-income communities of color live cheek by jowl. You see, you know, there are photographs of kids' playgrounds with the oil refinery in the background, you know, and then so it's outrageous. It is criminal, I think, and they should be charged with murder for what they're doing, you know, homicide. But the other thing is, it's called Rice's whale. It's a whale that's in the Gulf of Mexico. We're down to 50. You know, so it's like the vaquita and the, you know, the little Maui dolphin I was talking about in, you know, in New Zealand that's being, you know, killed by toxoplasmosis. You know, there are just too many ramifications, repercussions, you know, and they're, you know, immediate, ongoing, and you know, here we've got, you know, the IPCC saying we have to get off, you know, fossil fuels as fast as possible. And that great story you just sent me this week about the incredible ramping up of wind energy, you know, enough when we get to, a terawatt, that's enough for 1 billion homes, to power 1 billion homes. I mean,
in short, the story is that wind energy is very viable and is now ramping up around the world in ways that are producing tremendous amounts of energy. So
yeah. So it's a total smokescreen to say that we need to drill more because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It's absolute nonsense.
It's the same smokescreen that was used when they wanted to raise the price of gasoline on all of you who drive those combustion engines. I mean, it's absolutely a fraud. You just did not need to. And the oil companies are, if not record, huge profits they're registering. We have to wrap up. So we've had good news and we've had infuriating news. I would say one last thing on the drilling. It's not even about supplies. I consider it flirting with environmental disasters that we've seen before. I mean, I just think it's a wanton. There, look on YouTube. If you're watching now, that's the size of the drilling they want to do offshore in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, and look, it's right.
It's greed. It's pure greed. It's not about oil supplies that we desperately need.
No. Yeah, it's greed, it's profits, and it's, profits over people all the time. It's the few getting rich while they poison the many, and it's not okay, Mark. It's so not okay.
Yeah, it's sad. But Belinda, I'll try to focus on the good news that you brought about the recharging the aquifers here in California. You can find her on social media, Waymouth, Belinda Waymouth, Waymouth. You can find her here on Thursdays. Love visiting with you. Thanks, Belinda.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah.
More. It's the planet stupid.
No. It's the planet stupid.
Next time, only on the Mark Thompson Show.
Wow, I can't believe how quickly the show's gone by, Albert. You as commissioner did pull together David Katz, although he was running behind. Threw us a little bit.
It's always an accomplishment right when I get him on, because he was on earlier, and then I was just working him through getting his camera to work, and then we got that abstract, that artistic camera angle of him today. So I'm glad he was on. He's always great. So anytime we can get David on, I'll take any.
Right. Again, the drops that are in Mark's Madness after we endured a huge upset. If you missed it, the thing I thought was going all the way, I thought this drop was going to win the whole thing. It's Whoopi's drop.
My bad. I'm sorry.
It is gone. It lost. It lost a wild idea, right?
Isn't that right, Commissioner? Unfortunately.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Wild idea took out my bad. Man. So anyway, this hour, we debuted another two after last hour. Again, last hour, it's either...
Why are you yelling?
Or the Texas...
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
And this hour, it's either... the Grady drop.
What he's got going here is a situation.
Or the Trump drop.
There's never been anything like this.
So it's situation.
What he's got going here is a situation.
Versus...
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, I definitely think
it's a very close vote here in the live voting, and the live voting is 40.
Oh, yeah, hold on a second.
Now,
I can't believe it!
Mark's Madness.
What's the live voting, Commissioner, please?
I'll end it here since it's already 12. It's 52% to Grady. 48% has never been anything like this. So there's literally never been anything like this.
It's more than I thought it would be,
Yeah.
What he's got going here is a situation.
Yeah, or...
There's never been anything like
You'll
this.
vote for one or the other. You can vote in the community section of our YouTube channel. And there's voting until midnight tonight. So, hey, do some nighttime voting. I love voting at night. It's a great thing to do. You can integrate it into your other nighttime activities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Oh, smash it with your iron rod, everybody. Come on and give me a smash. Just going to win the lottery. I
Smash
just want a little thumbs up. It's not going to kill you. Thanks for hopping on and being part of our community that supports this show on Patreon and PayPal. You can find links to both at The Mark Thompson Show at, TheMarkThompsonShow.com.
Oh my God.
TheMarkThompsonShow.com. TheMarkThompsonShow@gmail.com is how you write to us, but TheMarkThompsonShow.com is how you can contribute and be part of this community, this completely crowd-funded show. But we've done it all today. We talked about the assault weapons. We talked about the viability of suing those gun manufacturers. We talked about Brooke Jenkins and the statistics in San Francisco. Nikki's got a great show, too. Flip over to her on the Nikki Maduro channel. And
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
And we got the message from Shadow Stevens, who has a Mark Thompson Show mug.
Bye bye.
What a show. Thanks, James Buchanan, too. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.